sessions. Okay, good afternoon. I am Jessica Fitzgerald. I'm the Early Childhood Coordinator in the Office of Early Learning. I am so excited to be with you this afternoon and glad to see some familiar faces that have cameras on and some familiar names in the chat box today, or in the participant list today. We are glad that you have joined us again for a menu of pre-K literacy support opportunity for you to learn more, dig in deeper, find some application in classrooms. Regardless of your role, we are super glad that you are here with us today. And I am here with Sarah and Donna, who are our early childhood consultants in the Office of Early Learning. Our agenda today includes a welcoming inclusion as usual, a letter knowledge overview, so that'll be just touching base and setting the foundation. We'll have activities to support letter knowledge, and we're excited to share a resource with you with some of those activities and more. And then we'll close out with an optimistic closure in our hour together. If you were here with us for phonological awareness throughout the day, the slide may look familiar, but the information about thinking about your name is a little different. So we're going to take a moment to share features of our name to kind of prime the pump for our focus on letter knowledge today. So in the chat, we would like to invite you to share at least one feature of your name related to letters, and there are a few prompts there on the slide for you. So the number of letters in your name, we're seeing that several times. All right, so yeah, Karen shared that hers have straight lines and curved lines, so not just one or the other. And some long vowel sounds. And how that may connect to how those letters are together and the order in which those letters occur. What letter it starts with. A word. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Stephanie included that word that's related, so that starts with the same letter, name. Louder, late Lori. I love it. These are great. Thank you so much for sharing in there. Hopefully you can probably picture children in classrooms having some of these same conversations, and we're going to talk more about how that can increase their knowledge and the meaningfulness of their instruction during their time together. So thank you so much for sharing. I see a lot of good information about your names in there. So now we're going to start with a brief letter knowledge overview, just to get us settled in and get that very basic framework down or foundation down so that we can continue diving deeper. So obviously the main focus of today's session is letter knowledge, which clearly falls under the domain of literacy and language when we're talking about early childhood development. However, as early educators, we know that the areas of learning and development are intertwined. And growth in one domain affects growth in other domains, and they're supported by one another. And you can see this quote here from NAEYC's developmentally appropriate practice work also emphasizes that. And today we're going to be sharing activities that do promote that repeated and distributed practice with letter knowledge, but we encourage you throughout the session to think about additional domains that may be supported during these activities. So thinking about how fine motor manipulation supports development within the physical domain, and social emotional skills with turn taking in some of the activities that we're sharing with you today. And obviously there are many, many more connections as well. So if you're with us in previous sessions, you may recall that the 3 literacy foundations as described by the National Early Literacy Panel and in Letters for Early Childhood Educators, the 3 literacy foundations are oral language, phonological awareness, and print knowledge. So similar to those domains of development and learning, these 3 areas are interconnected as well, and each of them support early literacy foundations. So today's focus is on number 3, that print knowledge. And drilling down even more, we're focusing on literacy or the letter knowledge within that area. Print knowledge includes concepts of print and that letter knowledge. So again, we're focusing on that letter knowledge today, and children should be exposed to 6 characteristics of this letter knowledge instruction. So we want to expose children to the name of the letter, the shape, the sound it makes, our mouth shape, like what does our mouth look like and feel like when we're making those sounds, or the letter name. A target word, which a couple of you mentioned with your name in the chat, having a word that's associated with the letter to have that additional connection, and then writing the letters. And we'll dive into each of these a little deeper during our time together today. So we often want to refer back to the reading rope. And we have learned that the skilled reading takes both language comprehension, so up there on the top about that background knowledge and all the comprehension, that piece is up there, and then or the oral comprehension. And then we also have word recognition. And today, that is where our focus falls, is within this decoding, knowing those letter names and the sounds that correspond with those written letters. And then that will lead to a smoother transition into reading during those primary grades. So not necessarily focusing on the reading during pre-K, but how are we setting those foundational skills so that they can move towards reading when it's time for them to do so. So as mentioned earlier, there are those 6 components of letter instruction. And if you want to dig in deeper, you can refer to session 9 of your letters manual if you want to dig in more and remind yourself of some more of the details. And here are the first 3. The first one is name, and I did briefly describe these earlier, but this is when we're talking about the label of the written syllable, or symbol, sorry. And we often refer to that as the grapheme. And then we also have the shape of the letter, configuration of lines and curves. So some of you said you had straight lines and curved lines, or we can think of those as like straight lines and humps when we're thinking about H's and N's, those types of shapes. And then the last one on this slide, our third piece there, is the sound. And that's the production of the phoneme. And a phoneme is the smallest unit of sound that we hear. Our second set here starts with mouth shape. And this is one that I wish that I would have known a little bit more about as a pre-K teacher in the classroom, and how explicitly I could have explained this to children. And that includes the movements of your lips, your tongue, your jaw, how the airflow is moving through your mouth, and maybe your nose, especially with certain letters. When you're talking about that, you're looking at articulation. Okay, so how we articulate the letter name and the sounds that they make or that they represent. And then we have our target word. Talked about connecting a word with or a picture with that letter name to help increase their just the number of connections they can make to that letter. So that may be an illustration, especially for our younger learners. And then the form or letter formation. And this is the configuration of all of those lines and curves. In this instance, it's related to the writing. But when we're talking about writing, we're not necessarily referring to every time that a child has paper and pencil or any other type of writing utensil. We can talk about letter formation by air writing, using our bigger muscles, tracing with textured letters with their fingers, and those similar activities, in addition to having the opportunity to practice with those writing tools. So before turning it over to Sarah, who's going to share some activities to support these components of letter instruction, I'd like to point out just a few more things. We do encourage that direct instruction. However, discussion of letters and their features should not be limited to a designated time of the day. So it's important, that's why we titled throughout the day, because we can increase their knowledge and understanding throughout all settings and not only during that direct instruction. And the examples that we are sharing today, we have a section that's called sounds like or may sound like. And that may be a teacher talking, it may be another adult, it may be a child in the classroom. So just want to make sure that the assumption isn't made that it's always the teacher saying that during these activities. And one other thing before we start sharing activities and I turn it over to Sarah, is that we recognize that you may be doing a lot of these activities in your classroom or similar activities in your classroom. So we hope that if you're doing them, you can feel that affirmation of how these activities are supporting literacy development, oral language, in addition to the letter knowledge that we're emphasizing today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah.
All right, I am going to take us through this section on some activities to support letter knowledge. We are going to start with the first three. So these activities that I'm going to walk us through are going to focus on letter name, letter shape, and letter sound. And remember, that's going to be a focus on just the written symbol, the configuration of lines and curves, and then the phonemes. So the sound is going to be that smallest unit of sound that we assign to a particular grapheme. So we found this quote and we love this. We wanted to share this with you all. We thought this was really great information to highlight. This comes from Paulson and Motes. There's a narrow time frame for letter learning during the preschool and kindergarten years. Letter name knowledge at the end of pre-K is highly predictive of later literacy learning. But this trend does shift when we get towards the end of kindergarten. And as children move towards the end of kindergarten, letter sound knowledge becomes a better predictor. So we love this piece of information because how often do we hear, what do they need to know before they come to kindergarten? What do they need to know? What is going to give them the best boost? And so we can say with confidence, letter name knowledge. If they can leave pre-K knowing the names of the letters consistently and accurately, then that is really setting them up for that future success that's going to carry them through kindergarten really well until they tag into that letter sound knowledge. So just wanted to share that out there with you and highlight that. So let's start with a couple activities specific to supporting letter name. Good old hopscotch, right? This feels like the old days when I think about hopscotch. I'm like, I don't know if I've ever actually done hopscotch myself or with my kids. But of course, you can do this anytime. You could set this up indoors or outside. But intentionally select some letters based off of your most recent instructional sequence or any data that you have that you've been collecting. And so this may sound like, as you're working with children, listen to me name the letters as I hop on them, or they're hopping on the letters and you say each letter sound as you hop on them. So a great activity that can be done indoors or outdoors. Our next activity that we wanted to share with you to support letter names, this is a great one that could be used in a small group setting, and then you could transition this into a center time activity if you do a game center or something to that effect. But as you can see here, they're going to have a letter strip with the little pictures of the dice. They're going to roll the dice, and then whenever they count their dots, they're going to say the name of the letter that is rolled. You could also incorporate what sound does this letter say and integrate some additional skills. This one is another great one that you could roll in some math skills with subitizing, right, and counting and one-to-one. So all of these activities that we share with you today, I think have the potential to do what we do best in early childhood, which is integrate. Right. And so you're going to see a lot of different activities that I think will lend themselves to some of those multiple domains of development. We also think that this one is a great activity if you're gathering formative assessment data. This is a great way to gather some information as you're observing and watching children engage in this particular activity. Another one, I never thought about this when I was in the classroom, but I believe I probably would have tried it. Some good old alphabet yoga, thinking about letter shape. So this could sound like B, B, and our target word is a butterfly. So let's do that butterfly stretch as we say the sound, B, B, B. Or we could, same thing, C. You can see the little girl there, C, cat. Round your back like a cat. Cat. So this is helping to engage some of those gross motor movements. So lots of great opportunities there for some cross domain work. This next activity that we want to share is around letter shape. Lots of us in preschool have wonderful materials around fine motor. We have things like clay, we have Play-Doh, we have love some good old wiki sticks. You don't always see those everywhere, but I love some good wiki sticks or pipe cleaners. So this is a great opportunity to support letter shapes, and you want to capitalize on self-talk and parallel talk, making a connection there to what you've learned in your letters content. So it might sound like I'm making a long straight line like lowercase l, or I see you putting two straight pieces together like the letter X. So you're highlighting those lines, those configurations, shapes, and all those different things that we mentioned earlier, and how those come together to form a letter shape. Moving into a couple activities to support letter sound. I think this one was called, I'm trying to think when I saw this, it wasn't like bang the sound. I think it was, I can't think now what it was, but anyways, I love this activity because I had these in my classroom all the time. My brain pops to IKEA because they sell these for really cheap, folks. But we love these. So anyways, you can add some activities to existing materials. So for this, pound the sound. That's what this was called, pound the sound. So using your hammer, and you can say pound the sound that makes the, or pound the letter that makes the Z sound, or whatever letters that you have on there. Another great activity that's on this slide is I think about blocks. And so you may have some figurines, animals, and things like that. And on some of those blocks, you can have letters on those blocks. And you can say the pig wants to live in a house with a P on it. And they have to move that pig over. So again, we know that these are things that you may already be doing, but if not, these are easy ways to incorporate these throughout your day and in your different centers that you're doing. And everybody in preschool loves a good song, right? I always say they don't know you can't sing. Just sing, right? And just smile about it. They have no idea. And if you smile and sing, they are going to think you're the best singer ever. So here is another great one that is to the tune of Old MacDonald. And so you can really work on some letter sounds with this one. What's the sound that starts these words? Table, toe, and tin, with a t, t here and a t, t there. Here it, there it, everywhere it, t, t is the sound that starts these words. Table, toe, and tin. So there's a great little, I can't believe I just sang and we recorded that, but there you go, ladies. There is an option for supporting letter sound. We love good chants and rhymes and all of those great things in preschool. So I'm glad that we have that as an activity on here, because we're going to follow it up with a quick little video. So one of the things that we want to remember as educators who are working with our littles on sounds is that we want to make sure that we produce those sounds accurately. This may seem really simple and straightforward. However, we know that sounds are often produced incorrectly, particularly in some of our online resources, but even sometimes by us as educators. If you are a native Southerner, a native North Carolinian like myself, you very likely have a dialect kind of difference to the way that you pronounce sounds. And so it's really important for us to be mindful of how we are producing sounds so that we get those accurately. So we're going to watch a quick video that's going to explain why accurate sounds are really important for us. And please know we're not endorsing any particular curriculum here. We're just highlighting the need for us as teachers to be sure that we are modeling accurate letter sounds.
As educators, we know the importance of articulating and pronouncing our sounds clearly and accurately. When asking students to isolate phonemes in words, this can be a challenging task. When we hear language, all of our sounds are co-articulated. Oftentimes, when isolating sounds, such as stop sounds, we hear students add an extra sound or a schwa onto the end. For example, the sound of B, is often pronounced by students ba, adding that schwa onto the end. We want to make sure that we are modeling the sound clearly and accurately for students and providing error correction if we hear students adding that schwa on. Many educators are aware of keeping our sounds nice and clipped. However, there are 4 sounds that are a little bit trickier and not often recognized as adding that schwa. When we look at the sound of Q, we often teach it as qua. But listen to this word, queen. Q is the sound we hear in queen, not queen. This can be a trickier sound. To help yourself pronounce this accurately, think of a word that begins with that sound and isolate just the first sound. Queen, quick, quiz. Q says Q. Another tricky sound, Y. Oftentimes we teach Y as ya, but listen to that. Ya adds the schwa. When I say yellow, I do not hear a after yellow. Y says ye in yellow or yo-yo or yesterday. Y says ye. We often hear the sound W pronounced wa. But what do we hear at the end? Another schwa. Listen to this word, watermelon. We do not say watermelon, we say watermelon. W says w, like in wish or Wednesday or went. W says w. And our final tricky sound is the sound of R. Oftentimes we hear this pronounced When we look at this red rectangle, we do not say red or rectangle. The sound of R is r, red, rest, read. We realize some of these sounds may be new to you, and you can practice pronouncing those sounds before you get in front of students to help them articulate these sounds clearly. Think of a word that begins with that sound, isolate that sound, and you will be able to hear that sound clearly.
A great example for us, and I will say I still practice my sounds sometimes. It's really, really tricky, especially to hear her say Q. I'm not even going to try, but that is one that I still need to definitely practice. So great resource there. So I'm going to turn this over to Donna, and she's going to walk us through our next activity.
All right, thanks, Sarah. So yeah, I'm guilty. I know that I have not articulated correctly, and it's really important as we are the models in those classrooms, particularly with our early learning. You're imprinting that first learning, and you want that initial learning to be accurate, very critical. So we're going to do a little bit of processing together and connecting time. And in this, we're going to kind of look at the information we've just shared. Sarah shared with you, and Jessica shared with you. As you think about what we've learned around letter names, shape, and sound, with your colleagues in your breakout, you're going to share experiences and knowledge of instruction and what other kind of domains of integration. There were some comments in the chat as Sarah was sharing where people recognize the integration opportunities within these activities that were shared. So that's important for us to ensure that we're talking about that with our colleagues. So I'm going to give you a minute to get in, talk about all the domains of learning and development. We're thinking about whole child development that you can connect with and how you might do other literacy. You all may have other ideas you'd like to share. So within your breakouts, I think Jessica's going to push us in there for about 3 minutes, 3 to 5, and we'll bring you back in and we'll have a little more conversation about activities that may be shared. My group did such a phenomenal job talking about great ideas they shared in the room. Like we discussed ways that you're using that mirror in that classroom to help students actually look at their shape. And we all felt we have had occasions where perhaps we didn't articulate. We did. The schwa happens sometimes when it should not. And we all recognize that. So modeling is important. Great conversations in the breakouts. Hope you all likewise had a great conversation in your breakout. All right. Again, our intentionality here is to provide you all with some opportunities to get some ideas And we're going to share a resource here at the end, but just a reminder as we move through this and the next activities that we're going to share with you. The critical importance of focusing on mouth shape. And like I said, in our group, there was a good discussion around using mirrors, using a target word to illustrate that sound in that word, and then actually the formation of letters. And there was some appreciation in our room as well for recognizing the importance of helping to build that skill set as well. So we're going to keep it moving and show you an activity. This is going to be another video. And this is going to demonstrate descriptions of mouth shape and how it can be integrated throughout your day. During whole group, explaining and introducing letters during conversations, adults can describe the shape of their mouth, the airflow to help children accurately produce sounds as they recast and support oral language development. One example is rounding the lips for the R sound. The lips aren't rounded at the end of the sound. The word shark may also sound like, or may sound like shock. Let's, watch this video and you're going to get a quick example of that. So take a look at the video, please. Thank you.
The sound for E is your mouth is open medium width. If it was open any smaller, then it would sound like an I. It would sound like I. If it was open any bigger, then it would sound like an A. It would sound like ah. So it has to be open medium width. The sound for E is like elephant.
Again, we're going to take a look at some strategies, some activities to support when you're helping children focus on mouth shape. One of the strategies that's described within your letters training in your book, if you all have that, is, as was discussed in our small group breakout, using mirrors to support looking at helping students look at, and you see that in the picture here, looking at the position of the shape of their mouth and how they position their mouth as they're building that letter knowledge. It's a wonderful way for children to receive some feedback on that skill, and direct instruction with mirrors might be required for some of our students. And it's a strategy that can be implemented throughout the day in lots of different contexts. So let's take a look at some ideas of activities. So we're going to move along here. And this particular activity to support target words. So with this activity, you're going to set up bowling pins with printed letters. And it may sound like you knock down 3 pins. Name the letters on those 3 pins. So as they bowl with the ball and they knock it over, they're going to name the letters. 5 pins are still standing. What sound does each of those letters make? And then that's the letter P. Its shape is one long line down and a curve at the top. So again, we're trying to think, and this could be outdoors, this could be done indoors or outdoors, but just trying to think of a variety of ways to make developmentally appropriate activities occur within your classrooms throughout your instructional day that address specifically, how we form those sounds, those mouth shape, if you will. All right.
Donna, do you mind if I jump in real quick? I think I
Please.
made a mistake. I will claim it. I'm the one that took the screenshots, and this screenshot does not discuss the target word. So just to describe the picture real quick, this activity, the teacher put their target word on cards and letters for them to set up on their own. So if they put the target words with pictures up, they could reset their bowling lane without that assistance, but they were also connecting the letter T with the target word turtle. So I claim that. I apologize.
No, I still like looking at that activity. I still feel like you could do a similar activity in the way in which it was just, created on the card that you see there. So similarly, they're matching here in that example. There's a letter T on that pin, matching that with the target word turtle. So yeah, I got you. So listen, you all, just one more way for you to think about how to engage your children in fun, meaningful, developmentally appropriate activities to practice skills. All right, we're going to keep it pushing it, and we're going to keep moving. Hopefully we've got congruence with our pictures and our activities. All right, here we go. So in this example, this is an activity that also supports target words, and you can use multiple letter strips at eye level, and some can be on rings, portable, and smaller strips to encourage a conversation and writing throughout your day. Apply professional knowledge on which words would be best targeted to target rather than accepting all target words. And letters content in session 9 has some guidance around that. So what target word or picture do you most commonly see for letter E? What do you generally see? Elephant. And it can be confusing to children because they hear the letter name elephant at the beginning. And if they don't separate that short E sound from the O, that can make confusion occur. So being very intentional, as you move through that. I know some of you have curriculum and it kind of identifies that for you. But even within your curriculum, having that discernment to be able to recognize where there might be ways that your children could become confused. So that's just another way. So certain target words lend themselves, to that sneaky schwa sound, and they're less effective in that way as well. So clearly isolating the initial target sound. So this is an activity that can be done whole group. And you can see that activity there. We're going to look at an example of another way to target with using a variety of materials. This example shows the interconnectedness of letters, letter shapes and letter formation. And there's a handout available in your Letters EC handouts that will help support this. So these activities, while working with a lot of different materials, clay, rods, whatever it is that you're working with, describe the letter shape while creating. Capitalize on self-talk, parallel talk. It's a real opportunity for you to develop that oral language within your classroom and your students. And it might sound like this. I'm making a long straight line, like a lowercase L. I see you putting two straight pieces together, like the letter X. And let's make some shapes that will cover the letter Z that represents the Z sound. Okay, so there's ways to integrate throughout the day. We'll take one more activity into consideration here. Again, this is to support letter form knowledge. You're going to fill some bags with some materials and foam letters. Trace the letters with your fingers, starting and ending dots, and correct the letter to make the correct letter formation. And capitalize again on self-talk and parallel talk as the students work through that process. And it could sound like this. To make the lowercase b, we start up high, we pull down, and we go around to the right. Or you trace the uppercase T correctly. You started at the top, pulled down, and added a line across the top. And that could be small group, whole group, just a variety of opportunities for you to do that throughout your day. And we're going to take another opportunity to kind of chit chat with one another, because we know you all have ideas and activities that you engage with when you do this work in your own classrooms, so that you can kind of talk about what are you doing that might be similar to some of these activities that we've shared, and kind of process and connect with colleagues based on the 3 components that we've talked about today: the mouth shape, the target words, and the formation of the letters. Share some past experiences, your letter knowledge instruction, things that you know that you're engaged with in your classroom, and any of the domains that you might be able to integrate. So we're going to give you just a few minutes in your breakout. You might want to take a picture if you're interested in kind of the possible topics for discussion, but making sure that we're engaging children in developmentally appropriate, fun activities that are meaningful and learning is off you go into your breakouts. Have fun. Hi friends, welcome back as you're making your way back into the main room. Thank you for taking a moment to kind of communicate with your colleagues. I feel like our best learning occurs when we kind of talk with our friends who do the same kinds of things that we're doing on daily. I will say this of my friends, when we worked on this, Sarah, Jessica, and I, we felt like it was really important to provide you all with something that's like a takeaway. So we're going to just share with you, again, trying to make this useful resource. So we're going to drop this in the chat. All of the activities that we just shared with you, and some are on this activity card set. So what we were thinking you might be able to do is, first things first, share with your friends. We want to put this out there for others to use as well. And when you click on that link that they've dropped into the chat, or Jessica, if you want to open it, do you mind? Can you click on that link for just one quick moment? We got a few extra little seconds here. So you'll see activity cards. So each of these activity cards have, kind of like a little icon that tells you, are they best suited to transitions, outdoor play or whatnot, whole group and otherwise. But we know that some of these can be done in all kinds of ways across all of these areas, and you'll see that as well. Mealtime and snack time. And then as you scroll through, you can print these out, put them on a ring, put them in, sheet protectors, and then put those sheet protectors on a ring and just roll through your day. Find opportunities to integrate these activities very quickly. One of the individuals in our group, how important it was to have things that you could do very quickly, very readily, to gather some assessment information about a child's performance in the moment. And these activities would engage children in that way so that you could gather information very quickly, snap a picture, write an anecdotal note, that describes what was happening in that incident. And that way you're gathering information that will inform your next steps instructionally. And all the children are doing is they're having a good time. They're just having fun. So that's what makes developmentally appropriate activities so engaging for our children. So thank you, Jessica, for taking the time to open that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to overtalk it. But y'all, I hope you'll use that resource, and I hope that you'll share it with others. Additionally, in addition to those activity cards, we want to remind you and make sure that everyone is aware about the menu support that is available. And that menu support will be updated. We are continuing to offer, and it's been also dropped into the chat. And when you look at what's coming up next, there's a webinar, Vocabulary Throughout the Day. So it'll be a very similar format to what we're doing right here, right now, only we're going to look for ways to support your work in helping develop vocabulary within your classrooms with your children. So just if you have ideas about things you feel like you'd like more information on, look, Jessica is eager and ready to help us get those activities out to you. And, we've got a way that we're communicating that now. Be sure to contact us, and Sarah and Jessica are going to drop a contact us opportunity in the chat as well, and a way for you to submit a request. If there's something within your learning environment you feel like you could use some additional support with, click on the link and let us know. We're eager to hear from you. We value your time. We know how hard it is to take time away from your day to engage with us in this way. And the fact that you're here speaks volumes about you and your dedication, your commitment. We just thank you for your time today. We're going to end with an optimistic closure. As you know, we always do in the Office of Early Learning. We want to close by just allowing you a moment to reflect and read this question. In what ways will you support and or incorporate letter knowledge throughout the day as you move forward? Think about something you feel like you could do as a takeaway here. And if you feel so inclined, pop it into the chat. Let us know what maybe you feel like you could do moving forward. No pressure. If you feel like popping something in the chat, we'd love to hear from you. If not, that's okay too. But how can you continue to share this work with others as well? That's really important. Share with your colleagues. Again, thanks everybody. Y'all are amazing. And we just are so in gratitude for your time today.